A Light Within Darkness, Chapter 7, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. After we dredged up the water, killed a few entirely too curious mutants to see what was making the clanging and splashing noises, we quickly made our way back to our vault so I could spend a bit to purify the water. While the water was being cleansed by using my chi to filter out the particulates, I was basically meditating and ruminating over my actions since I had been dropped here in the Warhammer 40k universe. And I quickly came to the conclusion that once I had my freak out and found that orb that fused into my head, giving me my cultivation knowledge, my morals had greatly changed from my previous first-world mindset in how I had so calmly assessed my surroundings, its supplies, and then making a plan using the cultivation knowledge to become stronger. I believed that the download of cultivation knowledge, especially the heavenly demon swallowing art, had changed my mindset and morals into looking at things far more detachedly, especially if they wouldn't provide me with further strength. Because in the end, the heavenly demon swallowing art ate all negativity. Even within myself. Mental demons stopping a breakthrough? Nope, such a negative mental accumulation of energy is merely a generously provided heavenly pill that already was attuned to my chi signature, which would be quickly absorbed into my cultivation. So, worries about my actions killing those people harassing me, and even when I almost carefreely decided to buy a person to turn them into an unfeeling cauldron to enhance my cultivation, was considered a mental disturbance and a negative state of being. Hence, it was eaten by my cultivation art. I will need to pay more attention to my mental state. I finally muttered as I began strapping in the now purify water barrels for me to take into the city. Ellesmere, I am heading out. Don't eat all the damn nutrient cubes, or I will have to trade you for a better elf. Did you just call me fat? What the hell is an elf anyway? Ellesmere cursed from the storage room, and as I heard her standing up to stomp over to give me a piece of her mind, I quickly slammed the vault door shut behind me as I quickly pulled the water barrel-filled cart to escape the righteous fury of a proud space elf. Once I reached the edge of my tunnel, I sighed. A number of people tripped over some traps despite the prominent sign at the front of our tunnel saying, "Traps ahead, enter at your own peril, puny mortal humans," in Ellesmere's fancy handwriting, scratched onto a plate of metal. Using my chi to augment my sense of hearing, I could hear the ragged breathing of the group of people just ahead waiting outside of the tunnel, so with a sigh I pulled off a heavy metal sheet and held it in front of me in case they just began spraying bullets or lost gunfire when they saw me. "I don't suppose you gentlemen would be willing to just walk away, will you?" I asked dryly, and then a loud clink was my answer, with a series of sounds resembling metal bouncing on concrete came immediately afterwards. "What the?" I muttered before my cultivator instinct screamed at me to retreat, but with my water barrels taking up the path of retreat, I simply slammed my slab of metal into the concrete beneath me and hunched over before I was both deafened and blinded as a wave of flames smashed into the thick plate of scrap metal. A couple moments later I slumped to the ground feeling that although I was suffering a bit of first-degree burns on my exposed skin along with the very unpleasant feeling of the air within my lungs having burnt up my internals, I quickly ate a couple of nutrient cubes and operated my cultivation art to repair my body as the fires from whatever they used began to die down. "Think that freak is dead?" I heard as my ears popped back into use. "I will show you a freak, you dirty savages." I mentally cursed as my Kasaya beads unfurled from around my wrist. I was promised by our friend at the Emperor's holy rest that the grenade wouldn't kill a pisker of any value. But no matter what, it will be weakened enough if not already crippled, so we can sell it to the church for a hefty sum. I felt red-hot rage consume my mind as my pride as a cultivator, even if it was unwarranted, with my low cultivation seemingly howl in outrage that a bunch of mortals were considering me to be mere cattle to capture to sell for shitty food you literally couldn't find in the poorest middle-class home in America. They were literally about to sell me for fucking corpse starch. I reached a point of internal rage that my heavenly demon swallowing art began automatically revolving in my body. My body was coated in a rainbow corona of light as my grasp of my cultivation art reached the next stage of apostle, and I felt my connection to the warp deepen. I instinctively breathed deeply, and the surroundings howled as the shadows created by the dim lights of the tunnel and the puttering out flames deepened, finally with eyes appearing within the pools of darkness not lit up by the dimming lights as my shadows swallowed the light. Even as my mind seemingly updated itself telling me I unlocked the demon summoning pool ability of my cultivation art, I felt warp entities pulling at my chi and mentally ordering them with the chi they took and incorporated into themselves. A howling cascade of individually vile heads grew out from the shadows with their hands attempting to pull themselves out of the shadows and into the material realm. Take them unto your realm and show them the courtesy of demons, I said as I walked past my melted metal plate, and as the lesser chaos spawn gave up on fully removing themselves from the warp at my orders backed by my chi that was supplying their newfound freedom from the warp chaos gods, they quickly reached beyond their shadows, forming a wall of shadows around the panicking mortals that attacked me for their greed. Well, I said, take them. Let their souls suffer within the warp till they are corrupted into another demon. I ordered with my eyes flashing a haunting purple as I stared into my demon summoning pool that quivered in fright at my anger. The people, for all they screamed and begged for mercy, were quickly dragged into darkness of my demon summoning pool, and I was left with blissful silence as I dismissed the shadows and collapsed against my metal barrels, both giggling madly at the feeling of surviving a literal grenade thrown at me and the knowledge that I was obviously going to be carving my own little kingdom in the warp with my abilities, as well as the complete exhaustion of my chi. Do I just go home and attempt to snuggle with my prickly elf? Or do I continue on and get stronger? I muttered after my mad giggling ended. Needless to say, I took the obvious choice and continued on silently, dragging my cart, and if people attempted to stop me in the less populated areas of the Cistern City, I simply walked past them with my eyes flashing an ominous purple, quickly suppressing them into submission. I knew that my actions in killing those people and even flashing these people with my purple glowing eyes were going to attract issues, but right now, I needed to get that damn neutron star essence so I could create my first internal star and thus become damn near immune to heat-based weaponry. Once I had my first star, I was confident that unless a decent contingent of Inquisitors attacked me or a couple of Astartes came down here recruiting orphans for their war efforts and decided that I was a heretic, I would be fine even if a bunch of guardsmen came down in force, as I could simply escape them. Finally, I managed to reach the specific tunnel that had a series of guards in front of it, all visibly armed to the teeth, deterring the other people loitering around to see why a bunch of people were posted up in the open.